Today on With the First Pick, it's conference championship weekend in college football, Rick, and we've got some players to watch from each game, guys who can really help themselves with big-time performances on the big stage. And we'll also update our college football QB rankings yet again now that the regular season is over. Basically, if the draft was tomorrow, how would we stack these quarterbacks? I'm Ryan Wilson. That's Rick Spielman from an undisclosed location looking as handsome as ever. This is episode 204. And, Rick, before we get going, how many days until the 2025
Wow. It's
NFL
very round number. But Ryan Wilson, as I do my travels here over the next couple of weeks, there are 140 days left to the 2025 NFL draft.
Wild times indeed, Rick. All right, look, we don't have time to dilly-dally. You got things to do, bills to pay. That pool ain't going to pay for itself in your backyard. Am I right?
Heater's on the brink right now.
Gotta buy a heater. By the way, Debo, we won't say where Rick is, but he's not in upstate New York with me, and the temperature where he is exactly the same where I am in the 20s, which I find hysterical.
Yeah, I'm being punished for some reason.
You're being punished. That's right. Podcast. You thought that was punishment enough. Now you got the cold weather to deal with. All right, let's do it, Rick. We're going to start with the updated quarterback rankings, and then we'll circle back to the conference championship weekend. Miami Hurricanes got screwed, but of course they lost to Syracuse. We can talk about that in a second because I was at that game to see our guy, Kyle McCord, and also Cam Ward.
Yes.
But Debo, flash that graphic if you got it through week 14, the updated college football QB rankings, according to me and Rick. And Rick, your list hasn't changed.
No, I mean, we've done this 100 times. It doesn't change over one game. When it will change is when we start going through this pre-draft process and starting adding in some of the all-star games, the combine, some of the pro days. That's when it could potentially change. You have not changed much, have you? A little.
Yeah, I changed a little because, God forbid, as you point out, that I'm going to crack under pressure. So I got nervous from last week with the regular season now in the books. So I approached it this way. What if the season ended 15 minutes ago and you got to draft a quarterback wherever you got these guys stacked in whatever round? Cam's first. You still have Cam Ward first as well. So we agree there. Shedeur Sanders is second. Let me ask you this. I don't know if I've asked you this in a while. How close are Ward and Shedeur for you?
I think they're pretty close, 1A and 1B.
Yeah.
I think the final outcome will be decided on the pre-draft process, but both had, very good seasons. They have some of their holes, just like we'll do, and every other NFL team will do. You'll poke holes in these guys until it looks like Swiss cheese, until right before the day before the draft, and all of a sudden all the holes get filled in really quick that we love this guy. But now's the hole punching season on all these kids. And but I do have Ward slightly ahead of Sanders, but I can see it going either way after we get through this process.
All right, before we get going through the rest of this list, and we did our top 7, and no Nussmeier because he needs to return to school. I don't know if he's announced either way, but I would like him to come back because he'll have a chance to be in the QB1 conversation, certainly heading into 2025. But I wanted to make I sent you my little brief scouting report pregame of Cam Ward from the Carrier Dome, now known as the JMA Wireless Dome, and you appreciated that. But some other notes I had during the game. Xavier Restrepo is for real, man. I love that kid, the slot receiver from Miami. And I don't know if he's coming out on the other side, but Syracuse has their own little Xavier Restrepo, number 2, Trevor Pena. He's about 15 pounds lighter in the guidebook there. Maybe an inch taller. We'll see when they get him officially weighed and measured. But he does the exact same thing for Kyle McCord. He's a fun player. He had a couple touchdowns in that game as well. I don't think Kyle McCord outplayed Cam Ward. It's just that the Miami defense stinks. I was thinking about it. Miami Hurricanes defense, if that team played the Cincinnati Bengals, there might be 400 points in that game. The lack of defense by those two teams. And I came out of there feeling just as good about Cam as I did going in. He was not rattled. They started lighting him up late in the second half when the game was a lot closer. Made a lot of big-time throws. Stayed in the pocket. We've talked about that. He's made an effort, it seems, consciously not to run around and play hero ball. But when he was forced to, he was able to make plays. And there was a turnover in that game. I have to check my notes. And it wasn't Cam's turnover. It was maybe Restrepo did have a fumble at one point. But whatever it was, Cam ran 50 yards down the field to try to make a tackle. And that sort of stuff sticks out. Do you agree with that when you see a quarterback trying to hustle down the field and make a play?
Yeah, no, I do. That's just, it's more, I guess, adding to his football character, that the guy loves to play the game regardless. And instead of giving up on a play, to give the effort like you're describing, which I didn't see. Yeah, no, that's a plus in his positives. I guess my question is, when you watched him play from sitting there, did you feel it? Did you think he is a starting NFL quarterback? Did you feel that these guys love to play for him? Did you feel the smarts, the savvy? Did you get a sense for that at all?
Yeah. So when either a wide receiver would drop the ball, or there was a play that didn't quite work out where their running back lost 2 yards because the blocking wasn't there, you never saw any body language. He is even Steven. Like he's not in people's faces, and he's not throwing his hands up when things don't go his way. And I'm trying to think back. So I think I saw Trevor Lawrence there his last year at Clemson. I've seen Malik Willis there. I think I saw Kenny Pickett there. And of all those guys, including Trevor Lawrence, it felt like he had the most, what did the kids say, Debo? Aura, vibes, whatever. Like it felt like they knew who he was, and he
Drip.
was very drip. He was dressed like everybody else. But he was very self-assured, played with a lot of confidence, and at no point did it seem like no one trusted him. Malik Willis was a little different. That Liberty team came in there. They may have been ranked at the time, but he was sort of a special, not out of nowhere, but he had transferred from Georgia, and he was a lot more raw than what Cam Ward was. I feel pretty good about Cam coming out as a guy who has a ton of confidence. Now, we'll see how that translates on other stuff, where you land and fit and all the other stuff. Two other things I want to note quickly, Rick. Cam, I didn't know. I had to check my watch, see what year it was. The wave broke out in the fourth quarter at the Carrier Dome. I don't know the last time I saw the wave.
Well, in the queues, things get up there to you guys a little late, Yeah. I'm sure, did you guys just see the bell-bottom pants went out of style? And whatever sweatpants you wear when we're together on the road, those went out like in the 1970s, but they're just coming up there in the Q's area.
I love how much you hate my joggers. You despise those things. Act like you've been there before, I think. The other thing is this. I don't know if Debo's near the microphone, but have you noticed how Michigan has sort of adopted that song, Mr. Brightside, and they sing it whenever?
I don't even know. No.
Oh, you're a music guy. I thought you knew that. You know that, Debo?
Yeah, I think every school kind of
so I was going to ask you, because that broke out as well during one of the commercial breaks. Is that a school-wide thing now? Every school sings Mr. Brightside?
I mean, Penn State's version, and they're not the first one to stake claim to it, is Sweet Caroline. There's others. Okay. The Red Sox have done that for a long time.
I see. All right. Because I thought that was a Michigan thing, but and what a weird song. I mean, it's not whatever. If you like the song or not, it's not a bad song, but just for a weird, like a get riled up for football song. All right,
Florida's got Rick, Tom Petty. Every school's got its thing. I don't know about William and Mary.
Yeah, I was just going to say, what's William and Mary's song? Whatever. Some Beethoven or probably something like that, whatever first came out in 1693. All right, Rick, your homework when you get off here is to go listen to Mr. Brightside. You'll recognize
Mr. Brightside, yes.
Yeah. And then, hey, do a TikTok dance with it, and we'll see if that blows up. There. I tell you, man, people love it when you do a little heartbeat dance. I don't know why. That's
I broke that out at the wedding in Chicago. Everybody's looking at me like I was from Mars.
Of course you did. They thought you were from Syracuse and just learned to dance.
Hotel, motel, Holiday Inn.
What song is that?
Run DMC.
Oh, it is? I don't recognize it. I'm a big Run DMC guy. Yeah. All right. So we got Cam Ward number 1, Shedeur Sanders number 2, and then things get saucy. You are going over the cliff with Carson Beck. Either the parachute's going to open or you're going to crash at the bottom of the mountain. So Carson Beck is 3 for you. We'll talk about him in a second because he said he has a big game coming up. The reason I went with Quinn Ewers number 3 is if I have to start a game tomorrow and you're, I don't know, the Indianapolis Colts, it doesn't matter.
They don't need him.
What?
The Colts don't need Ewers.
I'm just saying, like when
well, pick a team that actually needs a quarterback. Let's say New York Giants.
Okay, the Giants. Fair enough. If I have to start a game tomorrow and Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders are off the board and I need this guy just to hold down the ship, I feel best about Quinn Ewers over Carson Beck and Jalen Milroe. What are you giggling about?
So you're going to use the number, let's say they end up 3.
No, I'm not taking them in the first round.
Okay, it's like I'm misinterpreting what you're saying. You're saying, hey, I'm going to take my franchise quarterback at the 3rd overall pick, but just as a stopgap guy.
No, absolutely not.
So I'm lost in the translation. If you can explain yourself.
There are 2 first-round picks as we sit here. We agree with that, Cam and Shedeur.
Yes.
We'll see how the other guys shake themselves out in the coming weeks, 140 days. But a day 2 guy, and I need that guy to be as close to starting capable as possible in case of an injury. So 2nd round, for example, with Quinn Ewers, maybe 3rd round, whatever. I feel best about him being able to play sooner than the other 2, Jalen Milroe and Carson Beck, and having – not a great feeling, but feeling okay about the possibility of him being able to run the offense. That's what I'm saying.
Okay. Wow.
No response.
Wow.
You feel better about Carson Beck in that situation for the Giants as a round?
I'm just saying, I know he went through that. He threw 9 interceptions in 4 games, and then all of a sudden hasn't thrown an interception the last 3. And then you watch him in play 82,000 overtimes in the Georgia Tech game.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Which was an incredible game. I fell asleep. I wish I didn't. So I went back and watched a little bit of it. And he's not turning the ball over. He must have had 4, 5 drop passes in that game. He's best when he's throwing it in between the hashes. I understand he's not a great off schedule playmaker, or, when he has to get outside the pocket and kind of, his accuracy falls off there. But if you give him time and rhythm and staying in the pocket and some kind of West Coast scheme where it's 1-2 out, I think he would function better than Ewers. But this is a big game. This is one of the biggest games out of all of them, is because Ewers got benched, Beck threw 22,000 interceptions. And so this rematch is which one of these 2 end up redeeming themselves from the regular season fiasco that we watched.
Yeah, and that's the SEC championship we'll talk about in a second. So I have Quinn 3, you have Carson 3. We both have Jalen Milroe 4. Should he come back to school?
I'm saying that some people out there think that he is like, you have to adjust your scheme to him. He's not as good a thrower as Lamar Jackson was. Is he as talented as a runner? I bet you this kid's going to probably run into 4.4s, and he's a big. But is it how can Cam? Is it Cam coming out of Auburn?
Yeah.
So there are some teams that are going to look at it differently than other teams, I think.
We've changed our opinion about this player that I'm about to mention, but it feels like he's now closer to Jalen Milroe than he was when he came out. Where would you rank him with Justin Fields' game?
I think Justin Fields was a more accurate thrower, and I understand Justin Fields was his mechanics were smoother in the pocket.
Although it feels like he's regressed a little bit in that regard. So again, I think fit matters, so on and so forth. But he's not even Anthony Richardson throwing the ball though, right? Jalen Milroe? Right.
No, but now he can throw it through a wall. His arm talent there's no question about the arm strength. And the deep ball, there's no question about the deep ball because he can throw the ball 90 miles down the field. You'll love him at the combine because he'll be like Milton from Tennessee last year. Well,
take the pro day outside.
Yeah. Let's see him sit there and 1,001, 1,002, 1,000. Okay, throw, go. You were like fascinated by that. Jesus.
2 things anger Rick to no end, Debo. My joggers and when they take the pro day outside to let the guy with the big arm throw it 90 yards. You got your stopwatch just belly aching about how long it's taking.
It's just
all right.
Ridiculous.
So we both have Jalen Milroe 4, but with the understanding that you got to help the young man out wherever he lands. I have Carson Beck 5, and then you have Quinn Ewers 5. If those 3 players I just mentioned, and we have them just shuffled a little bit in our rankings, go within 15 to 20 picks of each other, that would not be a surprise on day 2. You agree with that?
Yes.
Okay. And that's the thing. Just whatever your flavor of ice cream that you like in your offense that you run, and whatever your interactions are with these young men when you interview them, and so on and so forth. All right. We both have Drew Aller 6 and Jackson Dart 7. And the only reason, sorry, Debo, that I have Drew Aller 6 is the physical tools. If Jackson Dart were in Drew Aller's body, he might be a first-round pick in this draft. But Jackson Dart, we talk about the arm strength concerns, but he's tough as nails. I just wish Drew Aller comes back to school and maybe gets a little bit more consistent. What do you think about that?
I agree.
Okay.
Physically, it's there. The touch, the timing underneath. The arm talent is there. He just needs more time. Time on the job, task at hand, whatever you want to call it. He's just not ready yet.
And as Debo was pointing out, the wide receivers aren't exactly setting the world on fire for Penn State, but the tight end certainly is. And Tyler Warren, I don't know what next year's recruiting class looks like in terms of having more or less to work with, but it feels like more college reps would be better for him. One last thing before we take a break and get to the conference championship conversation, Rick, is that, and you noted this, you sent this to my attention here. Carson Beck admitted to reporters on Monday that watching football when he's not playing just causes him stress because he can't switch off that part of his brain to actually enjoy the game. Now, I understood when you hear him in context what he's saying. He just can't watch a random football game because he's always locked in. But I suppose you'd ask him about that when you talk to him?
Yeah, but the way sometimes this media portrays it, you read the headlines, Carson Beck hates to watch football. It's like the impression you get. So I sent that to you because it was like what comes out. And if people just read the headlines and don't really understand what's behind what he's saying. So sure, that'll be asked. I'm sure at the combine or as he goes through and I'm sure the explanation, just like, hey, I get stressed out. I get stressed out watching other podcasts. I can't watch other podcasts except this one. And I don't even watch this one. I get stressed out.
And as I tell people all the time, you are the Carson Beck of podcasting.
Yeah.
So let me read Carson's full quote because he was standing in front of the media.
I just want to make sure, and I brought it to your attention because I saw it and I did text it to you, that it is not misinterpreted like, I initially thought it was.
And he said, here's what he told the media. I don't enjoy watching football. I know that sounds kind of crazy. It's not fun for me. So if I watch the Texas A&M and Texas game, for example, I'm not going to be able to sit there and enjoy it. I'm going to stress myself out the whole entire time. It's stressful for me because I don't ever give myself a break when it comes to football. And I think the takeaway there when you read between the lines is that he's so locked in on football that he can't just enjoy watching it. He's like Rick throwing the veggie plates around the room because someone missed their block.
Yeah, but I can give him a suggestion.
What do you got?
Watch Hallmark. It's the ultimate stress reliever.
Yeah, if you two want to be a serial killer, start with Hallmark. I hope they don't want to be a sponsor because I always equate serial killing to people watching Hallmark. I thought you were going to say Squeezeball. Squeezeball and Hallmark, get you there.
Squeezeball goes with me on the road.
I wonder what happens when you forget it.
I have like 10 and one in every bag, so it's almost impossible not to have one at hand.
Okay,
hey,
so
Rick.
Yes.
Oh yeah, go ahead, Debo.
I just have a quick question relating to the quarterbacks. You have some experience in this area. Is it all a factor when you consider the decision to enter this class or wait until next year? What is expected to be kind of a generational top of the QB class next year with Arch and Nico? Should that be a consideration at all for Drew or Jalen or Nussmeier?
No, in my opinion, bet on yourself. I've seen too many times guys bet on themselves, and you can say that take Beck for example. He was supposed to be the number 1 overall pick coming out of the summer, right? Or the next guy, and he had a crap year. So you can't predict injuries. You can't predict how these guys are going to play, and it's all bet on yourself and do the work. Get better at what you need to work on, your strengths, your weaknesses, everything, and bet on yourself. Because if you come out too early, the difference between a first-round pick, which is fully guaranteed contract, and the last pick in the first round and the first pick in the second round is like a $3 million swing. And the second pick in the first round is not fully guaranteed. I'd bet on myself if I have that much confidence, and I love the guys who are willing to bet on themselves.
Roll the ball out and play.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, it is. I know you don't like to talk about it, but I would imagine that's something that players talk about with their families and their agents because they're looking ahead too. They understand the nature of competition and the nature of the contracts, but
we don't even know who's going to be coming out next year.
I was going to say, I don't know.
And how much experience has those guys had? I mean, Manny, you're going to put him as the number 1 overall pick. He played 3 games this year. What if he doesn't play well next year?
Yeah, I don't know what if he's going to do.
Unless Debo he has up there in the Ivy Tower has some kind of crystal ball that tells him what's going to happen next year.
I think he goes to the Illuminati meetings with Peyton and Eli, so he may know. That's my guess. He wouldn't tell me that. He'd have to kill me. All right. Yeah, we'll see. I wonder if Arch stays for 4 years like his uncles did. And Maliava, he's athletic, but he's raw.
How many of these guys that stay for at least 4 years and get college experience have a better chance of having success in the NFL?
Well, Bill Parcells thinks it's incredibly important too.
Yeah, no, that was Parcells' thing, but just look, it shows.
Yeah, no, that's right. All right, Garrett Nussmeier, return to school. Bet on yourself, Rick Spielman. All right. So I imagine we'll update these after the All-Star games, but who knows? Maybe we'll do it next week. All-Star game time. We'll see what happens. See which one of these guys end up where. We know Shador's going to the Shrine Bowl, and we'll see where the rest of these quarterbacks end up. But for now, I'm going to take a quick break.
Is any of these guys, I'm just trying to look there, not in the college playoffs?
Jackson Dart isn't. Drew Aller.
Right. Well, those guys are at the bottom of the list. They need to come back to school.
And Cam Ward's going to get screwed out of it because they lost to Syracuse.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
They need some help.
But it'll be interesting because, that's just because that would have been great to see these guys through this playoff scenario.
And I don't know.
We'll see Ewers, Milroe, Beck, Aller. Those will be the playoff QBs.
Oh, right, Aller. I disregarded him earlier. Yeah, thank you, Debo.
It's kind of disrespectful to Aller that you disregarded him like that.
But last year, it's a double-edged sword, right? Because last year, the first game of the playoffs, Michael Penix Jr. balled out against Texas. And then in the finals against Michigan, everyone was down on it because that defense shut them down for the first time all season. And that defense had 7 or 8 guys that ended up getting drafted by the time it's all said and done, it feels like.
And he was on his back about within less than 2 seconds on half the downs last year.
So there's an opportunity for some overreactions either way once the college football playoffs roll around, Rick. That's what I'm saying.
And Dion has said that Shador will play. Shador and Travis will play in bowl games.
Nice.
They will not opt out.
Okay, there you go. Rick loves that.
That's all in.
Okay, fingers crossed they stay healthy because I don't know if I'd be down for that. But whatever. No one asked me, Rick. All right, let's take a quick break, come back, and talk about some of these players we cannot wait to see in Conference Championship Weekend right after this.
CBS Sports HQ, giving you college football coverage unlike anyone else.
We're talking Big Ten.
Pre- and post-game coverage.
Are you encouraged with the way that this team responded?
Along with breaking news.
A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
Highlights and expert analysis.
That streak could be in jeopardy here.
Sure. What was your main takeaway from this game? How impressive was his domination?
That really changed the football game.
Let's go ahead and have some more fun.
Another wild ending.
The chaos continues.
Turn to CBS Sports HQ.
All right, Rick, first up, the Big Ten championship game, which includes Oregon. Words I never thought I'd speak, not because Oregon isn't good, but because they've been in the Pac-12. They're playing Debo's Penn State. Debo, how you feel about this?
8 o'clock on CBS on Saturday.
What's this? Are you putting any money on your Nittany Lions?
I am not. I am not having a financial investment here. It's been tinkering between Oregon 3.5 and 4.5.
Ooh, I thought it'd be bigger.
Me too. All right, that's good to know.
It is. It's a great opportunity. Penn State loses, they still host a home playoff game. They win. They're probably the number 1 team in the nation.
Wow, it's a lot of pressure. All right.
Come on.
All right, Rick, Tyler Warren over under 9 targets.
They better get him the ball. That's the only chance they have to have an opportunity to win.
Yeah, I should have gone higher, like 12 or something. All right, we're not talking about Tyler Warren. We've talked about him before. Let's go with your guy. And I'm glad you mentioned him here. Left tackle Josh Connerly Jr. You mentioned him before the season as someone on NFL teams' radar. I finally got a chance to watch him this morning, and he's listed at 6'4", 315. That dude is athletic. He moves incredibly well. There was a snap he played quarterback and ran in an option on an extra point try. He's played wide receiver a couple snaps. He's out there. They'll put him out there in the quick game to block on the perimeter. So he can athlete it up a little bit. I noticed that he struggled sometimes getting beat across his face on like in the B gap, but he's a mauler in the run game, and he's one of these guys that you feel like the limit. He's got unlimited potential because of the physical stuff.
He has a lot of untapped potential. I think he has unique athleticism, the way he moves and the way they do some things. And you pointed out, I don't see any other left tackles doing some of the things that you just said. He needs to get stronger. He needs to add bulk, I think, to his frame. He's all over the place on his technique, especially in pass protection. If they didn't run this Oregon offense, he would probably give up more sacks and pressures. But because they get the ball out so quick in this offense, that helps the offensive line up front. But I'm talking about, I don't think he's a first-round talent.
Right.
I think he's a Friday guy that has tremendous upside because of the unique athletic traits, but he has to physically mature. He has to physically get stronger, and he's going to be a project from a technical standpoint. But some coach that you can't teach what he has, and the things that he needs to get corrected, those can all be corrected.
Right. And the athleticism is what sticks out in terms of a day two conversation, because I always come back to what the Lions did last year in the third round with the young man from Canada, Manu, I believe his name is.
Yeah.
Who's incredibly raw. And I never saw him play. I didn't have any tape on him, yada, yada, yada. But this is a guy you take on Friday and you work with him, and hopefully the athleticism meets up with the technical stuff down the road, and you got yourself something special there. But he was fun, just a little raw. He's going to get tested because Abdul Carter's a coming, as Rick likes to say. 6'3", 260.
When you put him on, that's the matchup that I really am interested to see. Like, I watched Conley in the Ohio State game, and JT got after him pretty good that game. He did not have one of his better games versus some of these polished pass rushers that are going to be pass rushers in the NFL. But so this will be a litmus test, if you want to put it that way, on Conley versus Abdul Carter. That should be
I can check. Abdul plays about 65, 70% of his snaps over the left tackle, I believe. I'll double check, but he'll be over there if they think that's a matchup they can win, and we'll see what strength on strength looks like. We've talked about Abdul before, and Abdul has a chance to be edge rusher 1. He's certainly in that conversation right now, and this will certainly help his chances. All right, Rick, you think Oregon's going to win that game, or you got some good news for Debo?
I don't know. Yeah, you're asking me my betting advice. So if it's 3.5.
Oh God, sorry, Debo.
Can you do that plus 400, minus 300, whatever?
What's the line, Debo? The money line. What's the Debo money line? Look it up.
Penn State is probably plus 150-ish.
All right, so Penn State wins. You bet $100. You win 150.
I thought it's $1. You win 150.
It's Rick rules, right? $1 for 150.
I'll put $1 on Penn State.
Okay. You can mail me your $1. All right. Sorry, Debo. Next up, the SEC championship game. Georgia versus Texas. You hinted at it earlier. Carson Beck is your player to watch because you cannot quit Carson Beck.
I can't get off. I'm trying to jump off the bandwagon, and then he keeps bringing me back on. I've jumped off and on like 62 times.
You got your foot stuck in the door. He's just dragging you down the street. There are 1,000 guys in that Georgia team that we could talk about, and I'm sure we will post SEC championship game next week at some point. But Carson Beck certainly has a lot to prove, probably the most to prove of all these guys. But I went on for Texas. I went with Cameron Williams, the right tackle, and I had to go back and check because I thought I read it wrong. We've talked about him a little bit before, especially during the Michigan game, I believe. He's 6'5", 369 is what he's listed at.
Big man.
Sweet mercy. Enormous frame, obviously. He's a great athlete. He's another guy that we've seen sort of in these first-round conversations, but I think he's a day 2 guy as well because of the rawness. I thought he's a little better pass blocker than run blocker, which is a weird thing to say. Typically, it's the other way around. But not surprisingly, he can anchor pretty well when he doesn't get too high. But I want to see how he does because the other side is Calvin Banks Jr., who's going to be a first-round pick, maybe the first offensive tackle off the board at left tackle. And Cameron Williams has a chance, should he come out, I'm guessing he probably will, to be a top 50 guy maybe.
Yeah, I do. I think Williams, though, he had his struggles now against that Georgia front in the rematch. So the reason I picked Beck, and I can see why I want to see how these guys respond. They played each other once. Beck may have been his worst college game of his entire NFL or collegiate career. I want to see how he responds. And if he comes back and lights it up, that's going to be a big feather in his cap. If he shites the bed, as they say, and where I'm from.
Where do they say that?
Where I'm from in Ohio.
Oh, where I'm from. Oh, okay.
Yeah, where you shite the bed. So you got an opportunity this is a to me, a prove it game for Carson Beck. Now they'll get into the playoffs and we'll see there, but this is a redemption game. And I want to see how he responds. And then I think this offensive line and Banks had a couple of struggles as well against the Georgia front. So this will be a great rematch on two teams that really didn't play well that night. That get at least the players that we're watching for the draft, they get a chance to redeem themselves.
Speaking of which, and I just saw this the other day, I thought he was going to come back after he suffered the knee injury in the Oregon game, but Ohio State left tackle Josh Simmons has announced for the NFL draft as well. Rick's shaking his head. He might end up going top 32 because of the tools, but I sort of wish he'd come back just to see a little more experience. But you want to talk about what this dude brings?
Who? Josh?
Yeah, in terms of being, he's now we have an OT3 that we can talk about when we talk about the first round.
Yeah, he made unbelievable strides from last year to this year, and biggest knock on him, all the tools are there, the athleticism, the power. Technically, he's raw, but he dominated the first part of the season. But who was it against? Yeah. And when you watched him against, who was it, Marshall and Western Kentucky and Akron, great. He can block those dudes. You watched him in the Oregon game, that may have been his red flag game of, not so fast.
Yeah.
Because there's some holes. So I was very excited to see him when he actually started playing some legit NFL-type players across from him. I went to Marshall and Green, Mike Green, who we talked about earlier in the season. He only lined up one or two times against them. Mike Green was rushing off the left or over their right offensive tackle. So I still think there's a lot of questions, and I think this kid could have answered a lot of questions by coming back because he didn't play against the top level competition. And unfortunately, he hurt his knee, which is you feel bad for the kid.
Well, the bummer is now he can't compete in any of the All-Star games, and he ain't going to play almost certainly in preseason. I mean, he tore his ACL in October. Maybe he's ready, but almost certainly probably won't start the season. So you're sort of understanding that you're not going to see him till maybe middle of 2025 if you draft him wherever you draft him. But he's got some tools there.
There's a little it's when these players get hurt and they get drafted, and let's say they go to training camp and they're not ready. You don't put them on, the IR list. They're NFI, which means non-football injury. I understand he got hurt in college playing football, but it wasn't on an NFL team or in an NFL facility. So you can classify him as a non-football injury when he gets drafted. They would get their signing bonus and all that. But if you really wanted to be, and most teams aren't going to do this, you do not have to pay him his salary if he's on the NFI list because he didn't get hurt while he was under contract with you. Now, most teams, like we've had some situations where a player was getting ready, was working out on his own that was on our team, but it wasn't at our facility. It wasn't during a game or a practice. We would put them on NFI. We would pay them the split contract. So split contracts are in the NFL. Let's say the minimum is $750 or $800, whatever it is. On the rookie deals, there's a split, which means it's almost half of what the salary would be. So let's say it's $800. If he goes on IR, their salary goes down to $400.
NFI or IR?
No, IR.
Oh, okay.
NFI, you don't have to pay him anything. You can pay him zero. But you can. Like we paid the guy the down amount, even though it was in. We had.
I didn't realize that. So when you go on IR, your salary gets reduced by half. You're on the rookie deal.
If teams put it in there, like it's a negotiating tool. But most guys after the first rounds, they have split contracts.
Learn something there. All right.
Did you know that, Debo, or was that a little interesting tidbit?
New tidbit. You
like it?
Teach me so much.
Just like you do on me gambling. You teach me so much, Debo.
All right. Speaking of which, who are you taking, Georgia or Texas? What's the Rick rule on that?
I don't know. I'm not a betting man. I'm going to take Georgia. I'm going to go with the history there.
I was going to say, you can't quit Carson Beck now. All right, Quinn Ewers, let's go, baby. Next up, the ACC Championship, which is not going to include the Miami Hurricanes because they got Kyle McCorded up in the Cuse last Saturday. But that's great news for Dabo and Clemson, who lost to South Carolina. I don't know if it's a home or not, but they lost that game. They were up late. They were up late, and then South Carolina surged. Clemson versus SMU. Man, I don't know where SMU. And you are watching Clemson right tackle, Blake Miller, 6'6", 315. And if you think that Connerly Jr. is raw, I invite you to watch Blake Miller. They're similar size, weight. I think Blake's a little taller. But sweet mercy, that's a roller coaster ride. He has a chance to be – he's athletic. He's not as athletic as Connerly Jr., but, man, you can see all sorts of things in the span of one series. So this is going to be fun. Left tackle, excuse me. No, right tackle. Sorry, right tackle.
Yeah, he is, I guess, spastic would be a good definition, because this kid comes off the ball. He's over-aggressive. He tries to bury people. I had like 3 or 4 pancake blocks at the second level when he gets his hands on you. But he's so out of control, and he's so raw in pass pro. I mean, I actually went and watched the Pitt game. In the Pitt game, he played left tackle, and he actually was pretty good on the left side.
Okay.
So when I look at this kid, I understand. I love the grit, the toughness. I think he's athletic enough. I wouldn't put him in the elite athletic category. I think he's a little heavy-legged. But, God, he got to be – just take a chill pill, dude. He's like watching Francis from Stripes, you know.
Oh, my God, good call.
Psycho. But I love the attitude and the energy and the effort.
Wait, Full Metal Jacket, right? Francis Full Metal Jacket?
No, he was Stripes.
Oh, I was thinking about the Full Metal Jacket weirdo, too.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'll kill somebody. I'll just give you that. It's like we're playing cards here, dude. Relax.
And by the way, for you to tell someone to relax, you know they're pretty high strung when it comes to football meatheadedness. But you're right. He's a better run blocker than pass blocker because it doesn't have to think. He just goes, finds the target and tries to bury it. It's funny you mentioned pancake block because I don't know what the scouting term is, but what came to mind as I was watching was he's as raw as pancake batter. Like he is a long ways away from being finished.
Don't use that anymore.
I like that one.
No, that's dumb.
You probably eat raw pancake batter. That's probably why you don't like that. But if you need him as a third tight end in a goal line situation, you bring him in and you let him destroy somebody on the edge of safety or something that's not looking to get ear hold. But do you think he sneaks into day 2 because of the potential? Not
right now, unless he owes up one of these. The only thing that gives him value to me that raised him to maybe a late 3rd round pick, again, it's early, is that when he played left tackle against Pitt and he didn't flop around like a fish out of water, and he was competitive as heck, that this guy may develop into, a backup swing tackle because you've seen some glimpses of that playing both the left and right side. So
what about this conversation? Are we going to have to move him inside?
I think with his length and I think you try him definitely a tackle first.
Okay.
But I do know that if you want to get in a barroom fight, you're going to take this guy to the bar.
Absolutely. With you. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he was a fun watch just because you never knew what was going to come next. All right, we're going to stay on the Clemson side of the ball. We had talked about Preston Stone early in the season, week 0, week 1, the quarterback for SMU. He's been benched. So I don't think we'll be talking about him anytime soon, but we are going to talk about someone we had in summer scouting, Clemson tight end Jake Brenningstool, who is he's a move tight end. I think he's listed at 230. I don't know what he weighs. He's 6'5". He's tough, though. I'll give him credit. Like, he lines up all over. He'll line up in the slot. They'll line him up outside. He's Cade Klubnik's primary target on any route within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. And he can run some intermediate routes down the seam. I like him. And this sounds stupid. I wrote it down, but I know you're going to make a face. But he feels like a move tight end that excels in the right system. Like, you had him in San Francisco or Kansas City. He's going to be a guy like a Noah Gray, for example, that you can find ways to use. He'll try to block. I'll give him credit for that. In line, he'll do.
Can I make my face now?
You can make your face now. But he's probably, because of the size and the position, probably like a day 3 guy. But I'd feel good about drafting him, knowing that you could use him in the pass game as a secondary, 3rd, 4th option in the right offense.
Who was the kid that Kansas City took? I think he's on IR now.
Yeah, he is on IR. I know who you're talking about too, because he feels like that kid. I'll look him up real quick.
Yeah, God, I can't remember his name, but I remember
he got like 18 tight ends on the roster.
Yeah, but he was a big, long, athletic, pass-catching tight end that didn't block very well. I just don't know how. Huh?
Bristol's not a terrible blocker.
I know. I know.
All right, let's see who we got here. We got. Yeah, he must be on IR. Jared Wiley, our guy, Jared Wiley.
TCU?
Yep. Yeah, so similar type player. Well, we haven't seen Jared Wiley play, of course, because he's been banged up, but that type of player. And they don't have a lot otherwise. Like this isn't a team with the T. Higgins and the DeAndre Hopkins of the world running routes for Clemson.
Nope.
I haven't watched any SMU after week 1. Clemson needs to win this game to get back in the conversation, so we'll see what happens. I won't even ask you for a pick. I'm going to go with the Dabo Sweeneys.
Go with the SMU's out of nowhere, even though I've TV scouted, but they don't have much talent either. They
hadn't had anyone yet and invited to the All-Star games, the Shrine and Senior at least. So we'll see how that shakes itself out. Next up, and finally, the Big 12 championship game. Iowa State, the Fighting Rocco Becks versus the Fighting Pete Prisco's Arizona State. Man, if they win this game, the Big 12 championship, do you qualify for the playoffs, Debo, if you win your conference title game? So can Arizona State go to the playoffs?
The top 5 highest ranked conference champions make the playoff, which the Big 12 winner will be easily one of those. They could even, depending how Boise State UNLV goes on Friday night, get a top 4 seed and a bye.
Wow.
Boy, Pete's going to be wearing that little the Arizona State helmet.
Yeah.
Full time.
He's a bandwagon guy. Yeah,
he's been a bandwagon fan of the worst program in the Pac-12 since the 70s.
He went to
I was just going to say, Pete was in his 50s when the head coach of Arizona State was born. Kenny Dillingham is one of the younger ones in college football.
He's got those kids playing hard, too. I like listening to Kenny Dillingham.
Yeah, they wouldn't let Pete on. He went to the satellite campus in downtown. They wouldn't even let him on the main campus.
He went to school in Phoenix, Arizona, not Tempe. All right, your guy, our guy, America's guy, Rick's player to watch, Cam Scatterbo. Show me someone tougher in college football not named Shedeur Sanders and Cam Scatterbo.
If he doesn't, what's Pete's all underrated team or all good football? If he is not
better than team,
if he is not the better than team, then I will disown Pete and never talk to him again.
He has to be the captain of that team, right?
Yeah, this guy is the toughest kid. I mean, I couldn't stop watching the tape on him, and
he's not super twitchy, but he might. You think so?
I think he can put his foot in the ground, and he has some bursts in his vision. And this guy is in a car crash every snap.
Does that concern you long term, like when you're scouting him?
Yeah, no. I mean, he's going to have a lot of tread on his tires,
right?
But this guy is as physical as they come. I don't know about his speed. I was trying to do that rule of thumb. Remember, can you cover the 10 yards?
2 strides.
Yeah, 3 strides. He was like 4 or 5 strides once he got in the open field. But he is quicker than he is fast. And he has great contact balance. They put him, you see him take the direct snap on stuff. This guy has 17 touchdowns this year. And then I think 4 or 5 receiving touchdowns. He's just a touchdown machine for Arizona State. So I just love this kid, the way he plays. He's a Saturday pick. I don't know if he'd go into Friday. It's a deep running back class.
Yeah.
But this guy is tough a football player as I've watched in a long time.
I think he has really good vision, too. A lot of times you see these running backs who just run up the back of the offensive lineman. He seems to have a knack to understand where the holes are before they even develop, and he'll slow up a little bit, and then he'll put it in gear and hit the crease, and he'll run between the tackles. Like, he's not afraid to do that.
Well, they run him. Most of his runs come between the tackles and then kind of bouncing it out a little bit. Most of the design runs are because of his vision, and I think he can make a jump cut inside. He's not a stiff guy.
No. But he's just not super twitchy. He's not, Jahmyr Gibbs twitchy or whatever.
No, that's speed. He doesn't have that speed. But
The only thing, he had 35 catches for 177, 2 touchdowns, only 1 drop. And a lot of that's just him getting yak. He'll be in the flat, they'll throw him the ball, and he'll do the rest. The one thing that disappointed me, had 8 punts last year, no punts this year.
Yeah, well, we'll try to. I hope teams will work him out as a punter on pro day then.
So he's played a little bit of quarterback as well. So we got him playing quarterback and Josh Connolly Jr. playing quarterback. That'd be a game I'd watch. Those two going.
Yeah, or Josh Connolly Jr. receiver.
Yeah, there you go. And my player to watch, and there's a few guys in this Iowa State team. A couple wide receivers have gotten Shrine Bowl invites. One is a juiced up juiced up slot guy that track guy we'll talk about, I'm sure, in the coming weeks. But I went with cornerback Darian Porter. He's long, 6'2", 190. Plays mostly outside, and you ain't running by this guy. Like, he is consistently in phase on vertical routes, and unlike Joey Porter Jr., who had 47 DPI calls last week against the Bengals, he's not handsy. Like, he has so much confidence in his ability. He's a former wide receiver, so he has good ball skills. He's usually in position for PBUs. So I was really impressed with him, and I think he's a little better than the Iowa State kid that we talked about last year that you liked a little bit. I can't remember his name right now, but I think he ended up being a day 3 guy maybe. But
yeah, I was as you were sitting there describing him, I was just trying to I was thinking of the kid from last year.
Yeah, I think this kid has a chance to be a day 2 player.
Yeah, I haven't watched him yet, but there is some buzz out there about this kid.
Okay, good. Needs to get better versus the run, but I feel like he can set it against every cornerback who plays outside and doesn't like coming downhill and hitting people. All right. Let's hope the Arizona State Sun Devils win for Petey Prisco. Our buddy Chris Hassel isn't an Iowa State fan. He's an Iowa fan, so that's not hurting anyone's feelings there. I think that's it.
Aren't you guys say let's hope Penn State wins for Debo?
You picked Penn State to win, didn't you?
I had to. Debo's the boss.
Exactly. You gotta be a people person. How do you feel about the game, Debo?
Based on James Franklin's track record against top 5 teams, not excellent, but I have faith in this quarterback, even if you guys don't.
Okay.
Yeah, I have faith in James. I have faith in James Franklin, even though you guys don't.
And if Drew Aller comes out dealing, we talk about Quinn Ewers and Carson Beck, that'll be something we'll have to talk about as well. Hopefully he deals and comes back. That would be ideal in my opinion. But again, he ain't listening to me. Well, best of luck to Debo. Best of luck to Rick. Wear a jacket, Rick. Hopefully it won't be too chilly for you today.
Do you think it's strange at all with like decision making for some guys that like the playoffs, the national championship goes until January 20th this year?
Oh, it does?
Like that's a long time. Not necessarily Drew Aller, but Alabama, let's say, continues to progress. The first games are the 20th and 21st of December, and then the quarterfinals are the 31st and 1st. The semifinals are the 9th and 10th, and then the title game is the 20th. Like, that's a long stretch to delay a decision or not know, or the championship is a week before the Shrine Bowl and the Senior Bowl.
And, Rick, that's going to have some overlap. Some of those kids probably are going to be exhausted.
Well, get used to it. That's what you're going to be facing in the NFL. It's a whole new season.
That's true.
Just like it is in the NFL. You go through the regular season, and then you start everybody's 0-0 once you get into the playoffs. Suck it up.
I don't know when to Diva's point, I don't know when the deadline is to declare for the draft or not, but it does feel like you're sort of dragging it out. And I would imagine some decisions are going to change over those final 30 days as well, based on what happens in the final stretch of the college football season. But
a whole new world out there that we're going to be experiencing with all this stuff, the pre-draft process and everything that we have never dealt with before.
And
you could have 4 games. You could have 4 more games. That's a third of the schedule to show off more against good competition.
Do you guys like that, or you don't like that? Do you think it's fair or not fair?
I think the season's too long, but I like the idea of guys being able to help themselves.
Why do you think the season's too long?
Well, it doesn't need to go to January 20th. I want to be able to start preparing for the All-Star games without having to worry about an extra 20 kids.
Yeah, sorry for the inconvenience.
I know, right?
Yeah, it's only going to the colleges and they're only going to make about $82 billion or whatever it is on this. But let's worry about Ryan Wilson and him getting his college guys.
Is that so hard?
The All-Star game. Yeah.
You know, it's funny.
Let's get our priorities straight out there.
I think it was 2013. I'm not sure what draft class it was. Remember, there was a time where you talking about today's new world of college football when you got angry that Christian McCaffrey and Leonard Fournette didn't play in the bowl games. And now look where we are.
Yeah.
Little did you know. All right. Rick's got things to do. That's the wrap on episode 2004. How about that? 204. Thanks as always.
Just so you know, I won't be here 2004, the 2004th episode. I can guarantee you that.
What will my hair look like then? Thanks to Rick. Thanks to Debo for producing. Thanks to all you guys who watch, listen, and comment. Enjoy college football this weekend. We'll see you on Tuesday.